Hi, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. This is going to be an exciting show, folks. You're going to want to stay tuned. I just want to give a shout out to say happy anniversary to myself being on Passionate World Talk Radio. It was 2 years ago that I came on Jeanne White's program, her caregiver series. So that's how it began. I can't believe it's 2 years already, and I want to thank Lillian Caldwell for this radio station and the opportunity you give people to speak their truth, and my second earth angel, Jeanne White, who tremendously has helped me more than she'll ever know. Being on the show gave me a purpose in a really stressful time in my life. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Jeanne and Lillian. Please read the blog because there's going to be valuable information. I am doing an advocacy series. You're going to want to listen to the person that I have on. She wrote a book, the Caregivers Guidebook. I wish there was a book like that when I was caregiving. I ran out and purchased it or went on my smartphone to buy it. So I want to welcome Barb Stewart to Chatting with Betsy. Good afternoon or good morning, Barb.
Depending where everyone is. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
You're welcome. I know it's morning where you are. It's afternoon where I am. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Could you please tell us about yourself, your book, and how you became an advocate? I know a lot of questions at once.
That's okay. I hope I have all the answers. So I'm very passionate about it. The book was just a happening as a result of my experience. My husband became diagnosed with a serious illness in 2013, so I was thrown into being a caregiver, had no idea what it even was. So I do label myself as a self-taught caregiver, which is part of my passion going forward, is because I believe most caregivers are, and I think for having an opportunity to give us all a voice that we can share our experience, I think will help all of us going forward so we're not reinventing the wheel. So my husband was scheduled for his surgery in 2016. He had a live donor liver transplant. He's doing very well. And because I knew we were going to have the surgery, I started to interview other caregivers that had gone through the process of the transplant. And they gave me great information about the process itself and some of the emotional things that they went through and the physical things that they experienced. And the whole time that I was interviewing them, I kept thinking, but I just wanted to know where to park. That was originally the name of my book. Because I was looking for the logistics. I work part-time in a hospital, so I kind of understood some of it, I thought. But I was looking for, okay, when I go to Chicago, I'm a suburb girl, where do I park? Where do I get food? Where do I stay? Where do I get cleaned up? How do I navigate? And I didn't seem to get any of that information. And even working in a hospital, I started to realize that information is not readily available. And I started to get thrown into a lot of situations that just reinforced that. So I started making some lists and making some notes, and when I gave a presentation to other caregivers at one point, they were transplant caregivers, I realized how valuable this information was, and so that was the start of my book.
That's very interesting. So, you know what it seems like, Barbara? There's a common thread, I feel, with people becoming advocates. They're usually, and myself included, thrown into a situation with no guidelines, no information available. And you are in the same situation, even though your husband is not having, a dementia issue, you're still a caregiver because, you took care of your husband. A liver transplant, that's major, very major. I can't even imagine as a wife, going through that with my spouse. Wow. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's true. And then I think I had such faith and trust in these geniuses that were taking care of him that I think the difficult part was once I got home. And now that I'm associating my book with hospitals and working in a hospital, the 110% of their time in the hospital is spent taking care of the patient. And often that's not enough time. It's a quite involved process, even goes all the way from housekeeping on up. So I didn't want the hospitals to see my passion as now they have something else to do and add to their list, which would be taking care of the caregiver. So my objective is to educate the caregiver. And what happens is, as a result, it results in better patient care. Because my husband shared with me, which I know a lot of you would probably know, that the patient usually doesn't want to be a burden, and they're very concerned about the caregiver. So when a person is in ICU, they are wondering, what do you mean, did my caregiver sleep? Did they eat? Did they get cleaned up? So if the caregiver can be aware of how to do those things, it actually helps with the recovery of the patient. And then I also have sections of putting the caregiver in charge of taking notes, what to take notes of, and a glossary of terms. So if you're not getting satisfaction here, where do you go? Who do you talk to? What do you have the right to say and do? So I think I'm really blessed as I'm connecting with more caregivers and others that have even written books. And I have a small section in my book of how to take care of the caregiver. And I think that is really what is connecting us all, of sharing our similarities, honoring our differences. But I think what makes my book different is it really, truly is a resource for navigating the healthcare system. There's nothing else out there like it, and I'm really passionate about it.
That is excellent, because we all need that. And I say it all the time, Barb, and I know you're going to agree with me, caregivers need to take care of themselves.
That's a beautiful statement, and I do agree with that, and I think it's the most frustrating thing for caregivers to hear.
Yes.
I know that was for me, because you get that a lot, and sometimes just out of general conversation, generic compassion of don't forget to take care of yourself. And I have a section in my book on that, is what does that mean? Like, how, when you are 24/7, as you know, Betsy,
mm-hmm.
What does that mean, take care of yourself? So I do have some points in the chapter in the book on that.
Oh, that's great, because I stress this so much. I can't even stress it enough. And I know I sound like a broken record and redundant, but it can't be said enough. Caregivers, I don't care who you're caregiving for, what your situation is. If you don't take care of yourself, you are not going to be able to enjoy life after caregiving. Now, some of you, are in situations like that, and some of you aren't. So, you have to take care of your life with your spouse, partner, or whoever during the course of, even if they just have a brief illness. You need to take care of yourself. And I know it's hard, but even if it's
Well,
5 minutes in the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great place. A great retreat.
That was my place.
You go there, you cry, you come out, and okay, and now we're all good. But I think even that,
yes.
On your point, I didn't think of that for, the rest of your life. But even just in the scenario of taking care of yourself, my example that I give is that I, of course, wasn't taking care of myself. So what happened, my husband told me that when I would ask him how he was doing, he would buffer that answer when he knew I was stressed. So it does not allow you to have great communication of back and forth of total care because now they're concerned about you. But my biggest example of taking care of yourself, very simple, I woke up one morning with a migraine and I went into total panic because I thought, wow, who's going to feed him? Who's going to make sure he takes his pills? Who's going to get him water because I'm sick? And luckily at that point, he was well enough to be able to take care of me that day. It was very emotional.
Oh, I can definitely relate because I suffer from migraines myself. And when you're a caregiver, it's very hard to lay down in a dark room and say, I'll see you in a couple of hours, depending on your situation. I think that's wonderful that you wrote a book. You took a tragic situation that was, tragic to you, your husband, and you just helped people. And this is another common thread I'm seeing with people who are advocates. They're taking a situation and making something beautiful out of it. And this is what, people could do if they would just realize, you are in control to a certain extent. Sometimes there's things, out of our control. The course of someone's disease is out of our control. How do you suggest, or in your book, suggestions on navigating the healthcare system? What specifically is there? Is it about organ transplant, how to go about it?
No, it's all about navigating navigating the healthcare system. There's two parts to this. So the glossary of terms helps with understanding not only medical terms, but the personnel. So if you are dealing with your nurse and she's got 5 patients and now she's taking care of someone who is in a trauma situation and she cannot attend to your loved one, what can you do, or who can you go to if she's not available? So it's kind of like that ranking of, okay, if you're not getting satisfaction from that person, who's next in line, and then who's next in line, and then who's next in line. And I didn't even know that myself. I was kind of taught that. So in other words, if you can't get an answer or satisfaction or connection with your nurse, you then ask for the charge nurse. If you can't do that, then you go to the nursing supervisor, et cetera. So that part of it is more of a factual part. The other part is actually navigating the hospital itself, because I think if we took a survey, 10 out of 10 people would say, no matter what hospital you're in, you don't know, where you're going or where things are. So I see it, I work in the evening shift, so I see it more because there's no volunteers, there's less staff, and a caregiver goes to leave. So they've had a very long, stressful day. They want to go to the parking lot. And I hear people tell them, well, if you go down this hallway, turn left, go through the double doors, turn right, go to the elevator, go to the second floor, turn left, go through the double doors, and turn right, you'll get to the parking lot. So I have little tips in my book of how to navigate that and how to make that work. And when you get to the parking lot, now you forgot where you parked. So
That's me.
Yeah, right. And I have tips on that because it's very traumatic. You most of the time your concern is all about your loved one. It's not about, oh, did I park in section C on level 5? So especially in those bigger hospitals, and especially in the evening, or especially if you're going to ER, you don't have valet parking. So you just park. Your objective is to get that person in the hospital. And then they transfer you to a room that's, on the other side of Kingdom Come. So that things like that. Another a tip that I had is that I couldn't leave the hospital for like 3 or 4 days, and trying to figure out where do I get cleaned up. They don't make that as something that is available. So what do? You go to the public restroom, and they have those darn faucets that you have to put your hand under to make the water go on, and it goes on for 3 seconds. So
right.
It's a very difficult place to try to get cleaned up, and then you have people coming in and out. So I have some ideas on that. So it's how to get around in the hospital setting. It's a key thing that nobody addresses. So I'm really passionate about that. I
love it.
In the hallways all the time. So.
Oh, I feel your passion. I could sense it, and I think that's great. So what you would like the caregiver to take from your book is navigating who to talk to, power, the chain of command?
Yes.
I think it's called,
yes.
How to navigate the hospital system. I mean, these are great suggestions that people may not, think about, because when you're put in a situation, you really don't think about those things. You're just concentrating.
And another one that comes to mind is the glossary of terms, because even working in a hospital, I was in with Robert, and someone comes in and they said, okay, the fellow is going to come in and intubate Robert. And I'm like, okay. And then they left, and I'm like, I had no idea what a fellow was. I had no idea what intubation was. So that's another part of the glossary of terms, is just giving people a little bit of heads up of some of those medical terms that you feel embarrassed to ask. What is that? So I think my book, the important part is focusing, which makes it different, focusing on when you are in that hospital setting, or when you're in the doctor's office, or when you're talking to the physician or a nurse practitioner. What do you say? How do you prepare for that? And the book is kind of all-inclusive, because I noticed also in the hospital, caregivers become very disorganized. They give you tons and tons of paperwork, business cards. Call me if you need something you don't even know what you need. So my book is an all-inclusive place to keep track of everything, including, the patient's vitals, the medications as they change, questions that you have, appointments that you need to make. So it's all in this little book.
That is fantastic. Where can people purchase your book, Barb?
Well, it is available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, actually even Walmart. It is available online. So going to the Caregivers Guidebook, and by Barbara Stewart, Stewart. And also, I do have a website that I'm upgrading. I'm going to add a blog to. It's called caregiversguidebook.com, and there's a section in there to buy the book as well. That one, you'll get a hand-signed copy.
Wow. I would highly recommend listeners to read this book, to purchase this book, because you know what? If you're not a caregiver already, you will be. Most likely you will be at some point in your life. So get a jump start and get the book.
It's also a great gift, because as I interview caregivers across the nation, the comments I get is either, I wish I had one, or everybody needs one. So it's almost a great tool to have, at home, because one of the things that is in there is what to pack. So the title of that chapter is Do I Bring the Red Shoes? So it's a really cute story about determining what to pack, whether you know that you're going in advance, or what to go if you have about 5 minutes to gather your things to go. So, and then what's readily available once you get to the hospital that'll support that.
Very, very informative book, and I wish I did have a book like that. I would recommend everyone to get it. Give it as a gift to someone that you know could use it. Buy it for yourself, because as the baby boomer generation is aging, and I am a baby boomer, you're going to need it. And even your children, the millennials, I don't know what my son's generation is. He was born in 84. He was already a caregiver. Give it to your children. People don't want to talk about caregiving, but it needs to be talked about. And I love your passion, Barb.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you do training on this?
Well, I'm starting to put some more things together, but I do presentations, and at all levels. I mean, it could be from a 10 to 20 minute presentation to an hour long. So yeah, I'm totally interested in helping people that need a better definition of some of these concepts. Another area that I definitely want to talk about, one of the chapter 5 in my book is called Complete the Circle. And it's another area that caregivers, probably all of us, but mostly caregivers struggle with, is knowing how to ask for help and what to ask for help for. So,
oh yes,
I think caregivers in general, just from my own experience, you tend to try to do everything, mostly because it's thrown in your lap. Your life is busy. Now all of a sudden you're doing the things that your loved one used to do, so that's added on. You're making decisions without someone to confer with. So you get in this mode like, I got this. And no, I don't need to ask. People are busy. I don't need to ask them for help. So the reason I titled it Completing the Circle is because I reference it as it's a circle that God created, that we get to be on both sides of the circle. We kind of go back and forth. So it's really easy. Like if I were to ask you right now, Betsy, can you help me with fill in the blank? More than likely you would say absolutely. But it's really easy to be able to give someone help. But if you, Betsy, were now, I said, well, ask me if you need something. Let me know if you need something. I'll be there. People don't. They don't do that, or they don't know even what to ask for. So I compiled a list that people can use as a guideline. I mean, they can actually use the list, but they can use it as a guideline of all the things that are involved in your life, from taking out the garbage to paying the bills to whatever. And when people say to you, what can I do to help? Most of the time you don't know how to answer that, so you get food, which is really cool, but you get a lot of food. And sometimes it's things that the patient can't eat, you can't eat. It's overwhelming. It's very generous. It's very loving, but there's other things that you need help with. So I make this list, and then what the person could do is you could print the list. It's actually on my website. You can print out the list, and you can hand it to the person. These are a list of things that you normally do throughout your day, whether it's doing the dishes, picking up the kids from school, taking the dog out, whatever, and they can choose from the list what works for them. So it's part of completing the circle. People want to help you. You don't usually want to ask, but it's part of what makes that circle go around. So one of the tips, if anybody knows a caregiver, another really good tip is get them cards, like, gift cards for gas, for the food, the groceries, for, Walmart, where that you can even apply it towards your prescriptions, whatever. That's a really good thing, because most of the time caregivers are hurting financially, being able to get through the process.
Very good suggestions. Very true. People, I know myself as a caregiver, you don't want to ask, you don't want to be a burden to anybody, but be specific. When someone asks you for help, say, okay, can you please pick me up, just say milk at the grocery store, or, can you pick up my dry cleaning, can you pick up my mail, I won't be home, something like, you have to be specific, I think, with people so that they know what to do.
Right.
Instead of just saying, or, pick children up from school if you have young children that need to be picked up. These are issues that, come up as a caregiver. Barb, that was really great.
Thank you. I think picking out the garbage is an interesting one, because I had a caregiver once. I said, well, so-and-so said that they would come every Thursday to take your garbage out, and then the next day bring the cans back up. And she goes, why would someone want to travel 20 minutes to do that? And I said, because they want to help you, and it's the only thing on your list that they're able to do. Otherwise, they're sitting home watching, stupid television, and this gives them a purpose, and it helps you. So taking out the garbage, you wouldn't think that would be something, that someone would want to do for you, but it is. So that's why it's cool to have a list, and that's why my list just gives some suggestions that's like, wow, I never even thought of that. So.
That's great with the garbage, because if you're not home to do it, it needs to be done. You're taking the garbage cans out and bringing them in. I mean, where I live, if you don't have your garbage can taken away at a certain time, you could get fined. So that's a great idea. That's a great suggestion, Barb. Your book sounds very interesting. Thank you for writing your book and telling people about it. I really appreciate it. I know from talking to you that you are you still a massage therapist?
Yes, massage therapist. I do therapeutic massage and wellness coaching, kind of combined in my session. So it's like physical and talk therapy combined. For people, it helps with stress as well as relief from any kind of muscle issue.
Oh, that sounds great. I know I love to get a massage myself. Do you use lavender? Do you find using essential oils helps the caregiver relieve stress, massages?
100%, absolutely. Absolutely. And if people don't know which oil to pick, I mean, lavender's a common one. Peppermint, you know what? I'm going to tell you, as a caregiver, get peppermint oil and put it in your purse or your bag or whatever, and have it with you. There were many times we would take the trip to Chicago, which is only 40 miles, but sometimes it would take us 2.5 hours because of the traffic. And the peppermint, it perks you up, so it keeps you, alert. And when the person you're taking care of is nauseous, it is an excellent source. You just give them the bottle to smell. It really helps with the nausea. So I think that's a good one. One time we were in a hospital and we were waiting for the doctor. Robert had an infusion in, and his blood pressure was really high. And I don't like to use the oils on a person in a hospital setting because I don't want to interject something that changes their path of discovery. So, but I did have him smell it, which is a very powerful way of getting the oils into your system. And so I had the lavender, and I was having him just smell it, and I am not kidding you, his blood pressure dropped 10 points within a few minutes. So it was kind of cool to see. So yes, essential oils are essential.
Yes, I definitely believe that. I'm a firm believer in aromatherapy.
Yeah.
I love peppermint and orange and lavender for myself. So I think that even with people who have sundowning or they're getting agitated, try just even put some on your hands and letting your loved ones smell it. You don't have to rub it on them. They could just smell it or diffuse it, in your house in a safe setting. These are these, little hints that you need as a caregiver, because when you're going through so much, you don't think of, chores or these, little things. And I love that you brought up the chain of command, who to talk to if you have a problem with the nurse that's taking care of yourself or your loved one. Who do you go to? That was excellent. And I could verify 100% that's true, because I did work in a hospital, and that's true. You go to the charge nurse, and if the charge nurse can't help you, then, you go to the director of nursing, or they have a nurse manager sometimes now on the floor, along with the, the charge nurse. And, speak. You need to speak up. And
Absolutely.
Excuse me, it doesn't matter who you care for or what your situation is. You need to speak up when there's an injustice. You need to speak up if you feel the care isn't up to par, because otherwise the problem will not be addressed. So I really love that you had that in your book. And Barbara, would you say that when you place a complaint, to be kind but firm? You could get your point across.
100%, because it really, the goal of the hospital is to take care of the patient. They really want the patient to get better. They want the patient to be well. They want the patient to be satisfied. They want the family to be happy. So, yes, it's just a matter of voicing, learning, kind of creating that interaction so that does get accomplished, because sometimes they're not aware of something that's happening. So, yes, I think the assertiveness, you don't need to be rude or unkind. I mean, sometimes it may turn into that, but in general, just asking a question and pursuing it because it's important to you and that patient. The hospital's objective is patient satisfaction. So if you keep that caregiver happy, you are going to get great patient satisfaction. I always tell the hospital, I ask them, who do you think fills out the patient satisfaction form? It's usually not the patient. It's the caregiver. So
that's right.
Keep the caregivers happy. I wanted to add just quickly one other thing that I feel very, very important for caregivers, and it goes back along the line of taking care of yourself, because I even remember my husband when he was really sick of saying, take care of yourself, and then finally I'm like, okay, I made an appointment, I don't know, let's just say for manicure, and as I'm walking out the door, he needed me. So I'm like, darn it. It is a very difficult thing of take care of yourself. It sounds simple, but when we were in the hospital and Robert was being released, one of the surgeons came up to him and looked him in the eye and said, Robert, go home and enjoy your life. And we're like, yeah, that sounds great. And on the way home, we're like, what the heck did that mean? Because usually you hear that like at end of life. We're like, what was he trying to tell us? But what we discovered was that, which we do, we not enjoy our life, we enjoy every day. And when people would say, oh, are you going on vacation this year? It's like, no, we're not, because we don't know how well he is and can we go on vacation? So what we would do, and you could do this even in your own home, is like if you have a picnic or you play a song and you sing along, photo it, videotape it. I was shocked. At the end of the year, I went back over my photos and videos, and I'll tell you, that one year when he was the sickest, we had the time of our life. It was great memories. And I know, Betsy, I see you post a lot of wonderful memories as well. So that is taking care of yourself. It's simple.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely, Barb. I love that you said that, because I always said, you know what? Bring the party to the person. If your loved one should be in the hospital or facility, bring the party to them based on their condition. You could bring treats to the hospital. You could bring treats to the facility. Have something simple at home. I always did with Matt. I celebrated, and yes, I definitely enjoy your life. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to realize, live in the moment and live in the now, because this is all that we have is right now. And I could just tell the listeners, don't be like Betsy. Learn from my experience. This is why I share my experience. This is why I have people come on to share their experience and stories, so you learn from us, so you don't make the same mistakes. Live in the now. Don't worry about, the future, how you're going to handle things. Just enjoy your loved one as they are now, and do what you can while they still can. And I love that, we never went on vacation, but you know what? We'd go to the mall, we'd go to the park,
Right.
Simple things. And,
Right.
We take so much for granted until it's taken away. And, you really have to think that, you really are blessed. I always say, if you could walk and talk and wipe your own rear end, you're blessed. Believe me, folks, you're blessed.
There you go. I think my new, it's in my book, but I think I'm going to make a bumper sticker or a T-shirt, because I think it applies to our nation's situation even now, let alone caregivers, is to share our similarities and honor our differences.
Yes. I saw that quote that you had. Yes, very much so, because you know what? We are more alike in a lot of ways than different. And, we need to love up on each other. So, Barb, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, they can go to my website, is a real easy way, caregiversguidebook.com. There's a place in there to send me an email, but my email is IMB, which is like Igloo Mary Barb, so IMB2002 at att.net. And I'm willing to answer any questions or help people. I follow caregivers all across our nation. I follow their stories. And if someone really needs my book and can't afford it, all they have to do is message me on Facebook or email me, and I will send them a hand-signed copy of my book, because it's all about us getting better, uniting, and helping other caregivers.
Oh, thank you, Barb. That is so very kind and generous of you, and I'm sure people would appreciate that. Thanks for coming on Chatting with Betsy. I love talking to you. Good luck with your book. I know it's been out, but hopefully, people will see it on Chatting with Betsy and get in contact with you and order your book. I think it's a book that everybody should have. Any other words of wisdom or information about yourself, Barb?
I think I loaded that down, but thank you, Betsy, for who you are and what you do, and allowing all of us that are on your show to share our story and our passion and help each other. So blessings to you.
Thank you. Thank you, and you're welcome. It's all about working together, folks, helping each other out, and this is what it's about. And I want to tell the listeners, I want to tell the world, this is June, which I cannot believe. June is Brain and Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Okay, caregivers who care for people with these issues, we don't need a month. They lived it. I lived it every day, 24/7. I will never forget my caregiving experience. I want all you caregivers out there, and I encourage you all, post on your page. Show your loved one. Do not be ashamed of your loved one, of their illness, because this is what the world needs to see. Don't worry about what others think of you. You post your loved one. Get the dementia, whatever dementia your loved one has, stop putting it in the closet, get it out of the closet, and put the spotlight on it. And this is the month. I mean, you should be doing it all the time, but this is definitely the month. And I encourage people all over the world, get on your Facebook, go to your media, your local media, wherever you are. Ask if they'll do a story on Alzheimer's. Ask if they'll do an interview with you on your loved one's disease. This is how we get noticed, folks, but you have to speak up. You have to be willing to take that chance and speak up. And no, you don't have to be courageous or brave. Do it anyway. That's what I do. Yes. I never thought that I would be out there in the public, but it wasn't because I was brave or courageous. It's because I was mad. So use your anger as a passion, and that's what I did. And I'm going to be doing my own talk on how I became an advocate sometime this month. But you can follow me on my Facebook page if you want to get in touch with me, Betsy Wurzel, Wurzel. I also have a group, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement. You do not have to have any type of dementia. We do take people with dementia. We accept all people, all walks of life. Even if you're not a caregiver, you just want to be educated and inspired, please check out my group. And as always, I want to thank Jeanne White and Lillian Caldwell. If you missed any of this broadcast, please subscribe so you won't miss my shows on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, Google, YouTube, CastBox. This is for free to subscribe, and you can look up Chatting with Betsy, and that way you'll be notified of my shows, because on Chatting with Betsy, as you all know, or if you don't know, you will now, I do not sugarcoat. We speak the truth on Chatting with Betsy. I encourage all my guests to speak their truth, because this is what the world needs. And I want to thank you, Barb Stewart, for coming on again, speaking your truth. Your best wishes with your advocacy. Folks, be kind. We need kindness more now than ever. Shine your love and your light bright wherever you are, because the world needs it. Until we chat again, this is Betsy Wurzel, host of Chatting with Betsy and Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye.